start the meeting. Already, okay, we'll start the meeting with the open public meeting statement. This is a regular meeting of the Fairhaven Planning Board. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. At the time of the board reorganization in January of this past year, the board adopted its regular meeting schedule for the year. Notice of this schedule was sent to and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on February 9th, 2023. That notice was also posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall and has remained continuously posted there as required by the statute. Copy of the notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Borough Clerk. A copy of the notice has also been sent to such members of the public as have requested such information in accordance with the statute. Adequate notice having been given, the board secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting. So shall we take roll?
Mr. Borough. Mrs. Bush.
Here.
Mrs. Koch.
Here.
Mr. Newell.
Here.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Ball.
Here.
Mrs. Nika. Or Mr. Nika, I'm sorry. Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mrs. Antonin.
Here.
Mr. Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Fletcher.
Here.
Okay, let's salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight is our official reorganization meeting. And so I'm going to change a little bit the order of things just to have for a more efficient and quick and more logical run through. So we'll start with the oaths of office for new and reappointed members. We'll go on to nominate the chair and vice chair. We'll then do the approval of the official newspapers, go on to the meeting dates. And I know we have a conflict on the 26th that we have March 26th that we have to resolve. And then we'll approve the minutes from the last meeting. And then we're gonna go into executive session and discuss the RFPs. Okay. So, Doug.
I'm going to ask those folks who are going to be administered the oath to stand. Please raise your right hand. You have the oath in front of you. I'm going to ask you to state your name in the appropriate section, and then at the end, I'll pause again just so that you can identify the section that or the position that you have. I,
Sean Bailey.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
Please all repeat that.
Oh,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And to the governments established in the United States and in this state.
And to the governments established in the United States and in this state.
Under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
And that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform.
And that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform.
All the duties of the Borough of Fairhaven.
And justly perform the duties of the planning board class 4 member.
The duties of the planning board class 2 member.
Perform the duties of planning board alternate 2 member.
Perform the duties of planning board alternate number 1 member.
According to the best of my ability.
According to the best of my ability.
Okay, welcome. We only yelled duck once. Sign just above your name there, and then return that to me. Please just pass those down. I will conform those to this. Welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll go on now to nomination and election of the chair and vice chair.
Nominate Fred Roll for chair.
A second.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Any other?
Close nominations?
Go ahead, Sheila.
Mrs. Bush.
Yes.
Mrs. Koch.
Yes.
Mr. Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Ball.
Yes.
Mr. No. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin.
Yes.
I will nominate, Dave Paolo as the vice chair.
Second. Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? Mr.
Yes.
Anderson, sorry, Mrs. Anderson.
okay.
Yes.
So we'll now move, to the, official newspapers. And so, we've classified the Asbury Park Press, which is daily, Star Ledger daily, and Two River Times, which is weekly. And so, I move to approve those as our official newspapers of record. I don't know if anyone has any comments or concerns about that they want to bring forward now.
That's what we've always used.
Yes.
Yes, and I think for purposes, just by way of, for purposes of ease, the municipality uses the same papers so that we do one notice, we do all of this together, and that way we make sure we're not out of step with everybody else in the borough.
Make a motion to adopt the Asbury Park Press, Star Ledger, Two River Times, in the cadence that you mentioned as their official papers.
I second.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
And I think I was supposed to call the alternates the last time, so I'm gonna call them now. Mr. Bailey
Yes.
and Mr. Fletcher.
Yes.
Okay, we'll look to now discuss, the approval of the meeting dates. It was either last meeting or 2 meetings ago, we had gone through the meeting dates. Those meeting dates have remained largely intact, with the exception of the March 26th meeting, which we now have a conflict with one of the other groups in the borough. We had originally scheduled March 19th. I think there was some conflicts with school holidays. So I think the spring break for the public schools is the first week, right? I mean, it's hard for everybody to, I think, commit that far in advance, but we're only 2 months out, less than 2 months out. I mean, if we can figure out or just go back to the original March 19th date, which is what we originally had, and we'll work hard to make sure we have a quorum for that. I know I'll be here, so I looked at my calendar already. I don't have anything. I'll mark it down as a hard sort of date that I can't miss, given the fact that we may have a couple people on the board that may miss that meeting. So I'll ensure that we have a quorum, and then we need to just make sure we work hard on the schedule and matters, and that if there's anything of real consequence, either try and get it into this next February meeting, or have to move it to the April meeting, especially if we're gonna have some attendance problems. I don't know, does anyone have any comments on that? Or I think that's the easiest way to resolve it. I feel like.
Yeah, I think I was the one that suggested moving it forward, because selfishly, my kids are not in the public school system, so our spring break, so I'm happy to go back to the 19th, just understand that there's a chance that I'm not here, so.
So you all?
And Sheila, we know the 19th is open, right? 'Cause
Yes,
that's
the
our
19th
normal
is your-
date.
your-
Would have been our normal
that's right.
date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to resolve our March 26th conflict and reschedule the meeting to March 19th, our original date.
Second.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
We can, why don't we, no, we can just real quick, just so I signed, the subdivision deed for, Hendrickson and Allen, which is, something we took up, several meetings ago. I went and discussed, with the borough administrator and the borough engineer. I went over all the paperwork, all conditions of the resolution were satisfactorily met. So I signed the deed, on Friday, or actually, I'm sorry, on Thursday, which was the mandated, deadline to perfect the subdivision.
Just to give a little more color, I did review the deeds. We did have the engineer review the deed descriptions. You may recall that this was, some members won't recall, but those of you that were here, this was the subdivision that we did for the borough's property that is associated also with the fair share of housing. That has now been, even though the subdivision was really combining lots to set that up for down the line. We had one extension requested by municipality, by the borough. Extending that, the deeds suddenly crept up on them again. We got the deeds. They did have some outstanding conditions. We confirmed with the engineer that all outstanding conditions were satisfied. You're all good, and I expect that we'll probably see a filed deed, if we don't already have one in hand, probably very soon. So that's done, good work. Usually that they don't, and just so that you know, usually that doesn't come before you. It's a ministerial act. If the conditions are satisfied, we generally have board president, secretary sign those, but borough council had wanted it to be presented, make sure that you knew that we did that for transparency purposes and make sure it's record. Okay.
Thanks, Doug. The next item will be, the approval of the minutes from the November 15th, 2023 meeting. Those minutes were distributed to board members ahead of time. I reviewed the minutes. I didn't have any comments. Does any board members have comments? Okay, so I'll move to approve those minutes. Second it.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
I wasn't here.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
That's all on the. I actually wasn't here even. Didn't realize, sorry.
We have enough people to vote yes? Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, yeah.
4, 7.
Yes, as long as you have a quorum present,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. So, the other, reorganization, matters that we have to undertake, is the appointment of the secretary, attorney, engineer, and planner for the 2024 year. The borough solicited RFPs, on our behalf. And so we returned, we received back, for attorney, Hill Wallach and Kenny Gross, Kovats and Pardon. For the board planner, we received proposals from Higher Brule, CME, and our current planner, CCH. And for the engineer, we received an RFP for CME, from CME. And so what I'd like to do now is have the board meet in executive session to discuss the RFPs. And put forth a recommendation that once we return from executive session, we can approve in this meeting and move forward.
We frame a resolution, whereas in the Open Public Meetings Act, there are certain events that can be held in closed executive session to the exclusion of the public. In this instance, the review of professional contracts and or appointment of professionals is one of those circumstances where the public can be excluded. For that reason, I'm going to ask for a motion to go into an executive session. How long do you anticipate before we go into executive session?
Man, I can't imagine it's gonna last more than 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes, and after that, there will be action taken.
Yes.
All right. May I ask someone to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Yes, thanks, Doug.
I'll be upstairs. If someone can just call up at the bottom.
Thanks, Doug.
I'll hear
We don't want to make him wait outside right now.
Okay, so we have three appointments.
Motion to come back in.
Yeah, you did, yeah, I voted.
Do we do one to go out and another one to come back in?
You need a motion to come back in.
Right. Okay, so we need to do both.
I'll make a motion to come back in from executive. Yeah, from executive session. I thought by ending the executive session,
We were.
so we have to, it's two motions, and a motion to end the executive session, and then a motion to start the meeting again.
No.
Okay.
I misunderstood the question. Never mind.
I thought
Alright.
You're good. You're back in public.
So we're,
Are you
yeah,
recording
and
now?
we're now recording. I thought I
Yes,
heard
we're
it. Yeah.
recording. Yes.
Yes, so thanks everybody for conferring in executive session. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Sheila Olson as board secretary.
Second.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to retain Clark, Caton, and Hintz as the planning board's planner.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to retain Rich Gardella as the planning board engineer.
Second.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Okay, so I would also like to make a motion to retain Kenny Gross, Kovats, and Parton as the planning board attorney. However, we want to implement, I think, a little bit different of a process than we've operated under in the past. And so what we'd like to do is just have a dialogue. So before work is started on applications, that the planning board chair be notified, and that bills are sent to the planning board chair as well to review before the borough remits payment. And so, sorry, and just so we can talk about how that would work, tactically.
Have your board secretary, don't send anything to me until you've okayed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I can speak to that privately.
Right, we'll talk about how to do that.
Did you have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
So I think that concludes the calendar. I'm sorry, that concludes everything on the agenda. We have no members of the public present, so unless any of the board members have anything they'd like to bring up for discussion, I'll move to close the meeting. Great, motion to close.
Second.
Bush? Yeah. Mr. Koch? Mrs. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Paolo?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Antonin?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
I like how fast these are.